January 17, 1955. Groton, Connecticut. Dawn breaks cold and gray over the Thames River. A sleek black hull rests alongside the pier at the electric boat shipyard, its sail cutting sharply against the pale sky. No plume of diesel exhaust rises, no batteries hum in anticipation of surfacing for air. Instead, a deep, steady thrum emanates from within, quiet, relentless, the heartbeat of something entirely new. Commander Eugene P. Wilkinson stands on the bridge, gives the order, and the message flashes to the world. Underway on nuclear power. For the first time in history, a vessel moves through the water sustained solely by the controlled fission of uranium atoms, liberated from the ancient tyranny of oxygen and fuel tanks. This moment mattered because it closed one era of naval warfare and opened another. During World War II, submarines had been prisoners of their own technology. German U-boats, the most advanced of their kind, relied on diesel engines for surface speed and batteries for brief submerged dashes. The vaunted Type 21 Electroboat promised longer underwater endurance and higher speeds, but even these marvels needed to surface or snorkel, exposing them to radar and aircraft. The Kriegsmarine's wolfpacks terrorized convoys, yet they were hunted relentlessly by Allied destroyers and long-range patrol planes. By war's end, over 700 U-boats lay at the bottom of the Atlantic, testament to the vulnerability of any vessel that must breathe air to fight. German scientists and engineers who had labored on those advanced designs, men familiar with Werner Heisenberg's uranium research, Helmuth Wolter's hydrogen peroxide turbines, and the hydrodynamic lessons of the Type 21, understood the limits intimately. They had dreamed of true submarines, boats that could remain hidden indefinitely beneath the waves. Yet their nation's defeat in 1945 scattered those dreams. Many were interned, interrogated, or absorbed into Allied programs. Heisenberg and his colleagues at Farmhall had listened in stunned silence to news of Hiroshima, grappling with how far the Americans had advanced in splitting the atom while Germany had faltered. A decade later, the United States unveiled what they could not achieve. The USS Nautilus SSN 571, authorized in 1951 under the iron will of Captain Hyman G. Rickover, drew inspiration from the very Type 21 hull that German engineers had perfected. Yet where the Germans were constrained by wartime shortages, scarce resources, and the chaos of bombing, America harnessed the full might of its industrial base. Congress approved construction. Westinghouse built the pressurized water reactor. Argonne National Laboratory tested prototypes. Keel, laid in 1952 by President Truman, launched in January 1954 with Mamie Eisenhower breaking the champagne bottle, commissioned in September 1954. The timeline was breathtaking. On that January morning in 1955, Nautilus demonstrated what truly unlimited submerged endurance meant. She steamed 1,381 miles to Puerto Rico in under 90 hours, entirely submerged, shattering every record for sustained underwater speed and distance. The German veterans of the U-boat war, those who survived and watched from afar, could only marvel at the transformation. They expected the post-war world to move slowly, rebuilding from ruins, constrained by treaties and poverty. Instead, America, abundant, organized, unscarred by invasion, had leapt forward. Where U-boat crews rationed fuel, endured foul air, and surfaced at peril, Nautilus's crew breathed filtered air for weeks, moved at over 20 knots submerged without pause, and carried enough nuclear fuel for years of patrols. The contrast was stark. The old Wolfpack tactics relied on surprise and numbers. The new atomic submarine embodied unchallenged dominion beneath the seas. Historical records bear this out. Nautilus logged 60,000 nautical miles on her first core by 1957, matching the fictional endurance of Jules Verne's Nautilus, then pressed on to 300,000 miles. In 1958, she achieved the impossible, submerged transit beneath the North Pole, navigating by inertial systems through ice that would crush any conventional boat. NATO allies toured her, even former adversaries in Europe marveled at the engineering feat. The Soviets, spurred by the sight, rushed their own nuclear boats into service, but the first true submarine belonged to America. Through it all runs a single, recurring symbol, the simple Rationchen of food. In the cramped U-boats of 1943 to 1945, German sailors counted every biscuit, every tin of ersatz meat, knowing supplies dictated survival. Hunger gnawed as patrols stretched. The sea offered no mercy. Aboard Nautilus, the galleys brimmed with fresh stores, refrigerators stocked for months, meals prepared in spacious compartments. The ration tin, once a grim reminder of scarcity and desperation, now stood as emblem of American abundance, proof that the nation could feed its warriors indefinitely, even under the ice cap, without ever surfacing for resupply. It spoke not merely of material wealth, but of a system that turned scientific vision into practical power, sustaining men far from home as though the ocean itself were a vast, inexhaustible pantry. This leap reshaped perceptions. For those who had once believed in the supremacy of German engineering, the Nautilus shattered illusions of parity. It proved that ideology and organization could harness the atom's promise where tyranny and scarcity had failed. The old guard of the Kriegsmarine saw in her not just a machine, but a verdict. The war had been decided not only on battlefields, but in laboratories and factories, by societies that valued freedom of inquiry and the marshaling of resources without restraint. In the quiet hum of that reactor, still turning today in memory, lies a larger truth. The atom, once sought for destruction, became the key to liberation beneath the waves. It taught that true power flows not from coercion, but from open minds, vast resources, and the courage to dream beyond limits. In the depths where once men held their breath, a new generation sailed freely. Reminder eternal that abundance and ingenuity, rooted in liberty, can reshape the world itself. The sea, vast and indifferent, now carries the echo of that first historic dive, a promise that the impossible once achieved becomes the foundation of tomorrow.